Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today I have one pressing question. Who is the anchor being from Earth 616, or really Universe 616? Now, you may not be familiar with this concept in Marvel, and this is something that up until Deadpool and Wolverine hasn't really been a thing. But if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, skip this video. But also, if you're just curious, you're planning on seeing it at some point in time, this is not a major spoiler or anything like that. Let's kind of explain that topic. So, an anchor being is a character, somebody in the world whose death, I want to say, isn't supposed to happen the way it does. They die, and the universe just kind of unravels. It ceases to exist, and it's like it never existed. In Deadpool and Wolverine, it was confirmed that Logan, from the movie Logan, that takes place in the same universe. And when Logan is killed, that causes or starts the slow death of Deadpool's universe. Deadpool, in an attempt to solve this, and because the TVA just rips him out of there, decides that his goal is to find a new Wolverine to place in his universe to keep it alive. Basically, how can he restart it or keep it going? And that's what the movie's about. At least a good chunk of it. There's other things going on as well, but it does then ask the question. There seems to be an anchor being for every universe. And like this idea of incursions, destruction universes, all of that, anchor beings seem to play into that. So, the main MCU has a couple different designations at different times, but I believe on screen it has been credited as Earth 616. That's also the comic book universe as well. Though, comic book movie, that's just extra fun fact. So, in this week's 10-Minute Marvel podcast episode, I challenged Greg to the question of, okay, who is the MCU's anchor being? And we talked through some different characters who it might make sense for. And I'm going to credit Greg with the fourth one I'm going to do, but I want to give three that are my kind of thoughts on who it most likely could be. The first one, I think, would be safe to say Iron Man. Iron Man, Tony Stark, they're the anchor being to the universe, and because of the time travel shenanigans and all of that, Iron Man dies at the end of Endgame. He dies saving everybody. But if he saves everybody, does that also then doom the universe? Because there is no more Tony Stark on Earth 616, and messing with time, I feel like, falls outside the normal realm of how Tony Stark would live and die. If he had just continued to live his normal life and die of old age or die from whatever problems he might have had in the future, would that have been enough to save the 616? And it would add additional kind of weight and twist to the sacrifice that Tony had. And for that reason, actually, I don't like it. I like Tony Stark's death, Iron Man's death at the end of Endgame, as that moment of saving, not accidentally dooming the universe still. Another possible option, I think, is Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange might be like, well, he's not dead yet. That is true. Doctor Strange is, in fact, not dead yet. But I think there's a chance somebody like Doctor Strange could be that anchor being. He is tied into the survival of the MCU. He's the one who knew about the one pathway that was needed to be followed to return the world somewhat to the way it was in Endgame. He can obviously kind of interact with other dimensions and stuff like that. The Dark Dimension and Dormammu. He's off somewhere now with Clea. There's a lot of importance upon him, it feels like, in this phase. So if he dies trying to save another world and stop another incursion, could that be something that starts the doom and decay of Earth 616? Or is it going to become maybe a situation of he needs to be saved, he needs to be protected in order to keep the 616 alive? I'm going to go over in the future some thoughts on what a Doctor Strange 3 might be. So I think there's a chance that this one, it could make sense. Another one, and like you're starting to kind of push at some of these earlier Avengers characters. I think you can make an argument maybe that like a Peter Parker could be that, or I would say even like a Thor or Star-Lord could be that important to the universe. And so my final pick before I talk about the one that Greg suggested that I absolutely love and hope is right, but my final pick is going to be Star-Lord, because I think he's a character whose reach has expanded beyond the Earth in the MCU, obviously. So has Strange and Iron Man. But Star-Lord would be an interesting character to have be that anchor being, especially if they figure out that Star-Lord is the anchor being. If Star-Lord's the one who either has them on a collision course with something else or has to be protected in such a way, because it's a character who wouldn't take kindly to just sitting around and kind of being babied. They are too much of that kind of swashbuckling, out there sort of character that I think it would put Star-Lord and the MCU in an interesting spot. Now, out of all of those, I do think that Tony Stark, that is a real possibility for the MCU. But Greg on the podcast had a fourth option, and an option that I actually really, really like. Phil Coulson. Phil Coulson was the linchpin, the death that needed to happen to bring the Avengers together, to create the team in a lot of ways. But what if Phil Coulson was also the anchor being? The person who wasn't supposed to die because Loki takes him out, Loki opens up a portal, all this magical, mystical stuff happens, and he wasn't actually supposed to die, and now, because of his death, because the universe of Earth 616 has taken the trajectory we've seen only because of his death, that also brought on the death of the universe. It brought on the decay and brought it towards a collision course with another universe. And this could even be where something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could be tied back in as a different universe, a different Phil, and them trying to cheat kind of this idea of an anchor being, by keeping Phil alive. But I like that idea of tying it all the way back. Tying Secret Wars back to the original Avengers film because of a death that happened there. Let me know your thoughts on that. Who do you think the MCU's anchor being is going to be? There's plenty more options as well. Leave them down in the comment section below, or is it just some average Joe, somebody who's not that important, seemingly, in the grand scheme of things? Let me know that down in the comment section below. And if you enjoy this content, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and check out our full discussion on that, as well as D23 on this week's podcast episode of 10 Minute Marvel. You can find some links for that down below, or here on YouTube on the 10 Minute Marvel page, our podcast tab. All the episodes go up there, or wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. But with that, we'll see you next time.